the disappearance of little Zahra Baker
I can actually hear more than without my hearing aid.
is now being investigated as a homicide.
I knew this day was going to come. Cadaver dogs found the scent of human remains in 2 cars at her home.
Last person to see Zahra alive, stepmommy.
She's described just a great little girl.
Last night in a jailhouse interview, police say
Lisa Baker admitted she wrote a ransom note found at the family's home.
Here she is. This is who we're going to have homeschool our child.
Little Zahra was often beaten, locked in a room.
The stepmother would make her walk long distances on her prosthetic leg and then punish her when she could walk no longer.
Zahra is a sweet, smart little girl. Everybody that knew Zahra, how she's being treated, this is gonna happen.
Hickory Police and agents from the North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation interviewed Elisa Baker at the Catawba County Detention Facility. During that interview, Elisa Baker admitted to writing the ransom note left on the vehicle at the fire scene at Zahra's home on Saturday morning. After admitting to writing the note, Elisa Baker requested an attorney. This morning, Hickory Police obtained a warrant for Elisa Baker for felony obstruction of justice.
Where is this little girl? Joining me right now, a special guest, Brittany Bentley, relative of Elisa Baker, Zahra's stepmom. Brittany, thank you for being with us. Brittany, what can you tell us about the Department of Family and Children's Services visiting the home before?
Yes, I got a phone call from Brittany, Brittany Starbuck, which is Lisa's daughter, and told me to have my mother look at Zahra's eye and see if it was black. Zahra had my mother for the weekend, and they were at the park, and I called my mother, and she examined the eye, and she said there, yes, it was traces. It was like it was fading, but there was a bruise under her eye. I called Brittany, her daughter, back, and DSS was called. She called DSS. About a week later, I believe DSS came. My mother saw them there. She was dropping Zahra off, and they were already there. She said that when she was in there, they didn't really ask Zahra any questions. Lisa just put on a really good act, and then she left. But I know
everybody, you're seeing, Dana, put that shot back up again, please. You're seeing the shot of little Zahra right now, and notice her left leg. That's off of the MySpace website. Her left leg, that is how she would appear with that prosthetic leg. This little girl battling so much, braving so much, and if you notice in every single picture, this little girl's smiling. She's got a big smile on her face. Brittany Bentley, relative of the family, joining us out of Granite Falls, North Carolina. What do you know about the little girl's living conditions, Brittany?
I know when I would go over there, I would just see, God, I remember Lisa coming out of the bedroom one day saying her hand hurt from spanking Zahra so much. I know she spanked way too hard, what I consider beating. I know about letting her out 5 minutes just to eat, and that was it, and go back. DSS was informed about all this stuff, especially, I know, the beating because the black eye. It wasn't a very good living conditions, not at all for a 10-year-old.
Is it true, Brittany, is it true that when a little girl would go and she would visit a neighbor or a relative, when it got time to go back home, she would run to the back of the house and try not to have to go home?
Yes. My mother would keep her on the weekends, and I know whenever she was happy, when it was time to go home, she would scream, Mother, I hate you, slam doors. It was just a whole different side of Zahra.
But she would have to go back home.
Yes.
To Pat Brown, criminal profiler. Pat, hearing all this, I feel like somebody's just wrenching my insides out, because it seems like everybody knew how this girl was living and what the stepmother was doing. Now the girl's dead.
Everybody seems to know in pieces, and I'm guaranteeing you the reason that child was supposedly homeschooled was because the mother didn't want her going back to the school and having any of this evidence come up. So I don't think she was getting much of a schooling, but she was being kept from everybody else. But I don't think the actual crime went down to exactly when that woman said the last time she saw Zahra was 2:30 in the morning. I believe everything sounded crazy after that. They were racing around doing all kinds of stuff. One of the worst cover-up of a crime scene I've ever seen. So I'm sure that's when it went down.
Pinzone, former Sergeant Phoenix PD, child advocate out of Phoenix. Where is everybody when the girl's alive? At least you've got Brittany Bentley. They called family services. They tried. Isn't it a law, Paul Pinzone, that when a school teacher sees bruises and black eyes, they are to report it?
Mandatory reporters are required by law to report
yeah, well, a
anything
lot of
such as
good that law's doing me right now. This little girl is either missing or dead, and nobody did a thing. They let it all happen.
You're exactly
She was
right. You know, you said two things that
homeschooled.
stand out to me.
Well, she didn't go to
So
school
many
this
people
year.
failed her, and when you see the pictures of her, that beautiful smile, that light inside her, people should have been fighting for her. She went from neglected to abused and now possibly dead, and there were too many people in her life that did not fight for her, and they should have.
Unleash the lawyers. Atlanta defense attorney Raymond Giudice, New York defense attorney Remy Spencer. You know, in my book, they got the mom right now, the stepmother. I think the father is just as involved. Either he sat by and let it happen, or he was part of it. You cannot not know what's going on in your home, Ray Giudice.
No, I don't disagree with that, Nancy. I think it's all or none at all. I think that no crime has been shown. There's nobody named as suspect. But if I was
Put him up. Didn't you hear the canine dogs hit on a wood chipper, Ray?
Are you calling her a suspect tonight? Because I'm not. And what I'm saying is,
I'm saying you're not answering the question, as usual.
No, I'm about
Well, then
to.
do
What I'm
it.
saying is she's not a suspect, and if I was advising her, I would not make any statements unless she could give me information that would lead to the safe return of that child. Otherwise, zip.
Yeah, well, you know what, Ray? She's already admitted she wrote the phony ransom note. Now, Remy Spencer, you've got a pretty good reputation as a defense lawyer. Give me your best shot, Remy. How can this stepmother have written the fake ransom note for $1 million and not be implicated in the child's disappearance?
How could
Okay, hold on. I want to hear this. Everybody be quiet.
I think the real question is, how
No,
could they
answer
get this?
that question.
How did they get this statement? She was in jail.
Thanks,
She
Remy.
was in custody.
You
and
lived
police
down
were
to all my expectations.
well, if you want to hear the answer, if she is in fact responsible for writing that letter, then yes, of course there will be a connection to the kidnapping, but we don't know that that is true, and that's the point. She was in jail on felony charges. You know, Nancy, just as well as the rest of us, police can't talk to her without her lawyer. So
Oh, really? Well, what if she doesn't have a lawyer yet and she volunteers the statement, Remy? What about that? Think quick, think back. You know, because the Constitution does allow a voluntary statement made to police to come in at trial. Do you disagree with that?
The question is,
I just got to put it on pause because obviously Nancy didn't watch the press conference. The sheriff had stated that the stepmother admitted to writing the ransom note and then asked for an attorney. Sorry for the interruption, but I couldn't hold it back.
voluntary, and it's almost never voluntary when somebody is in jail.
I'll tell you what's not voluntary, Remy. And you're right on the law. You're right.
Thank you.
But here, I see no evidence that this was a coerced statement. But I'll tell you what's not
But we
voluntary.
don't know that yet.
What's not voluntary is being locked in your room 24 hours at a time, as being beaten when you can't walk fast enough on your prosthetic leg. What's not fair, Remy, is being a 10-year-old child living in a home with a terrorist that beats you and leaves you with black eyes, and then suddenly, with your daddy standing by twiddling his thumbs, you end up missing, and a canine cadaver dog hits on a wood chipper. That's what's not fair to me tonight. Out to you, Vicky, North Carolina. What was your question?
Well, I wanted to know about the father, but now I know, and I agree totally with you. They do take both of these people, and they need to just...
They got a
instead of
2-for-1, Vicky. They got
There
a
you go.
2-for-1. 2 tickets for 1. Straight to hell.
That's exactly right. Don't keep them from...
lips quivering and tears in his eyes, Hickory Police Chief Tom Atkins said Tuesday what everyone fears, that 10-year-old Zahra Baker, a little girl who battled cancer, probably isn't alive.
The decision to focus this investigation from a missing child or abducted child will turn into a homicide investigation.